Welcome back to the podcast, you beautiful souls. I have a beautiful soul with me today, a powerhouse, a woman who is taking action, getting results, changing lives. I'm going to dig into her story today. I have Jenna Davies joining me. I'm going to let her go through her story, but she's got a background in the fitness industry, pharmaceuticals, brands, products, competed for 4 years, won her pro card, has launched the fitness business strategy, and is the co-founder of the Big Appetite. And she has a little project she just launched. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it publicly that you just told me before that we started talking, but I'll let her share that if we get into it. But Jenna, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. What an absolute introduction. It sounds like a bit of a mouthful, but I'm so happy to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I guess for those of you who do, yes, I'm Jenna and working in business, fitness, business marketing, essentially. Fitness is our area of passion. It's my area of passion. It's my hobby and my why, but obviously like anything, it's the area that I chose to focus on. I have a commerce degree, so business and providing advice and services in that space, I really could have gone anywhere. It actually began in pest control. So people are always surprised when I tell them this, but I was selling pest control for Flick Pest Control full-time when I was studying at uni full-time at night. So I was a night student working full-time, studying a full-time degree. I sort of progressed or got the opportunity when somebody got pregnant at Flick to then step into the sales role. And I was super young at the time. I think I was 20, which was quite young to take a full-time sales role for this kind of company, especially being facility services. They work with a lot of men. So my market was building managers, contractors, facility service managers at Westfield, Accor, Jones Lang LaSalle, like big property, big corporate sort of worlds. And super masculine industry. It was very fast paced, very much like take what you need type thing in terms of getting rid of pest control and providing hygiene services. So it was a very, very different start to my corporate career than what most people would think. And from there, I went to pharmaceuticals. So it's an FMCG based company, which is fast moving consumer goods. For people who don't know what that is, it's like moisturizing cream, toothpaste, toothbrushes, body wash, cream. But we worked on the natural medicine team. So I worked for a brand called BioGlen. Very old shaker. And essentially I was in brand management for superfoods. So superfood products, manufacturing, packaging, marketing, very broad sort of spectrum of skills that you learn at Pharmacare. Can't recommend it enough if you want a marketing job. Go there. But essentially, yeah, they sent me to America, which was really cool. One of the youngest marketers in the company to go ever, I think. Came back and released apple cider vinegar capsules here under the BioGlam brand, like marine collagen, the lowest sugar weight loss shake on the market, which was awesome. Had a really great leader there. And from there, that's when I got into fitness because we were manufacturing weight loss shakes and protein powders. And we really saw that as a gateway product to long-term health, which was the BioGland brand. So, got qualified as a PT in there along the way. Never really intended to work as a PT, but started my first company as a side hustle. And somehow along the way, sort of grew to here. It's the elevator pitch.
Some really cool points that you brought up there. Let's hear what you're doing now. Then I'll come back to some of those points. So you work on appetite. Can you explain what that is?
Yes.
What do you do? What made you want to do it? And yeah, what's the vision? What's going on?
So Big Appetite was founded I met my business partner Jade in December. January, we sort of started the chat. February, we started working last year. So it's a little over 12 months. We were both essentially in the similar industries, similar positions, consulting to health and wellness businesses. I had created the fitness business strategy and worked with over 150 PTs to help them grow their business. I also had clients on a retainer like Coach Mark Carroll, J Campus Nutrition, and all the rest. And then essentially we started Big Appetite with the goal to really kickstart a startup. So when you have a business, how can you grow from startup to scale up? What do you really need? And how can we help not just brand all your touch points, but strategically plan your touch points for a remarkable customer experience? It's really important to us that you deliver on your promise, if not over deliver. So as a business, as a startup, you need to be able to do what you say you can do. Obviously, be authentic and genuine and get a really good result. But then secondly, have a strategy in place to grow and the right systems and framework to do so. So we work with startups to develop customer experience solutions, design and develop websites, and help you choose the right tech platforms to make your business as scalable as you want it to be, essentially, whilst maintaining efficacy and getting results, and then marketing, sales, coaching, and all the rest.
What's your passion within the business? You seem you've had an incredible apprenticeship through the pharmaceutical journey with marketing, sales, branding, product development. What's your, if you're like, give yourself a role, the role you're best at, what is that for you in business?
Yeah, that's a good question. My business partner and I often talk about this because we're quite similar, and it's more like in terms of where we're different. But I feel personally my role in the business is to simplify complicated. And that's harder to do than said, essentially. But what my focus is results. And whatever you sell, the key to your success is being able to do what you do well, and then having people sell your business for you, essentially, right? And then, of course, you can sell it yourself, but you've got the proof of concept that works. So how can we make sure that you are getting amazing results? What systems do you need to have in place? What touch points do you need to have in place to be able to make the service more enjoyable, easier, faster, cheaper, get better results in a shorter amount of time? Like all these things that make a business or a service great, essentially, needs to come back to the client. So that also then stems into delivery. So I love working with owners of businesses, coaches in particular, because they all deliver differently. So what you sell as an online coach is really largely indifferent, especially if you're using an app like a fitness app or whatever that you've white labeled. You sell the same thing. So it's your delivery that's going to be the difference between your service and the next person's service, because it's probably, there's only so many kinds of modalities, whether you're tracking macros on a meal plan, doing workbooks, watching content, whatever it is, whether you're like a life coach, sales coach, or fitness coach. There's only so many ways you can deliver that outcome that are going to be different, but it's really how you make people feel. So it's about creating a customer experience that the brand is, that is true to the brand, that can be felt, the brand can be felt at those touch points.
Beautiful. I've got two questions, but I'm going to do one first and lead back to the other one. You've mentioned brand a lot through your journey. Is that something that's always come natural to you? Have you always been I don't know, is that a thing? Someone's naturally strong at brand? Is that a thing? Like, so like some people are natural salespeople, is people natural branding people? Is that a thing? Like,
I definitely feel like if I was a born leader at anything, it would be sales.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you have to be able to represent what you are selling. I sold pest control. There is no way, shape, or form that could come naturally to me, right? So it's easy for me to sell what I did. Like I can say, here's how I got my pro card. Here's what I did. Here's what I wear. It's very hard to sell something that you don't believe in or don't understand. I don't want to say don't believe in. I mean, don't understand. So when you do that, having a strong brand is how you do that, because that the brand stands for something. As a business, the brand is who you are. I'm passionate about branding because it's essentially being true to who you say you are. So if you present as the experts in fat loss, if you present as the club that you can belong to for support, if you present as fun, lighthearted, or if you present as structural and science-based, these are things that you need to stay true to. Just like a human would have integrity and consistency to their personality. You don't want to be a chameleon where we've all got that one friend, I hope you don't actually, where people say they're different around other people.
Yeah.
That's not how you build a strong business. So I feel that branding is something that, you have a style guide essentially, which governs the messaging, the personas and the platforms and the channel strategy and all the rest. And that obviously comes from the values of the founder and the business plan as well. So it definitely is a top-down approach. And I feel in this day and age, there is so much emphasis on marketing and selling that branding is really missed.
What would you say to most people, coaches? I'm a coach and I have a lot of coaches in my sort of audience. What would you say to coaches specifically, or businesses as a whole anyways, of what they can do to tighten up their brand, or what do you see most people doing wrong when it comes to branding?
First thing you can do to tighten up your branding is audit your brand. So number one, I would also recommend conducting some customer research. What are 3 words that come to mind when you hear big appetite?
Beautiful. I like that
these are the things that people associate with your brand, and you want them to be so honest. Make it anonymous. Make it anonymous. I highly recommend that. Then look at your values as a founder. What your business is, your vessel for life. Like if your purpose on this planet is to travel the world, make babies, educate people, give back, run a charity for rhinos in Africa, then essentially what you want to be doing is making sure that your business is going to deliver those outcome goals for you. And in order to do that, it needs, like, your values need to be aligned. So you need to check, what are the values of this brand that I've built? Is the market picking up on that? And if not, are we presenting in a way that's misaligned? So in fitness, you see it all the time. There's some old logo of a barbell in a box and they're calling themselves Fit Mamas, but really that doesn't align with where they want to go or whatever it is. So it's just about making sure that you've actually put some thought into your messaging, your design, your color palette strongly appeals to the target audience. I would probably ask something like, what are the 3 words that come to your mind when you hear insert brand name? Then I would pick your market leader and or a competitor that you kind of aspire to be like, and find out how they're perceived as well. And just doing a little bit of research, because you can have a look at market leaders, so how they're presenting and what they're promoting. And usually it's about choosing messaging that aligns with those brand values.
Can you give an example? And the reason I'm asking, like, branding is probably my weakest point. So I feel like I've just got like front row seat to like the best lessons right now. What would you say? How do you go from the branding? How do you go from that to articulating that into a brand message? How does that go down?
Okay, so that's a good question. How do you go from the branding to articulating into a message? So I would personify your company, personify your business. Now, if you are Jenna Davies marketing, essentially, you're not necessarily going to be the Jenna Davies that you get on a Friday or Saturday night with your friends, right? So you need to work out, as a personal brand and or as a brand, what do you want to be known for? It comes back down to those values. And then you want to think, who is my audience? Who is my ideal audience that I'm here to serve? And what are their personality traits? Where do they hang out? Where do they consume content? How do they speak? Because you need to create a persona that is going to be friends with your ideal client, right? So essentially how you convey that in a message, golden rule, use their language. Know who you want to talk to, and in 3 to 5 words, solve a problem in the words that they would use. And that's really important. So it's about communicating in the language of your audience in a way that is true with the personality that you've given to your brand.
That's fucking stunning. I've done Russell Brunson stuff, if you're familiar with Russell, and ClickFunnels and all that stuff, and he talks a lot about the attractive character. Is that similar to what you're referring to at the moment?
I'm actually not too familiar with that, with the attractive character, but I would imagine it's essentially positioning yourself in a way that is favorable. Like, I like to think, if you were a brand, if you run a brand, if you're a brand manager, how can we make friends with our audience? Now, when you're a service provider, it's a bit different to, I'm talking products. Like if I was selling BioGland supplements and I was releasing clinical curcumin, I'm not going to be thinking, how can I be best friends with my audience? But I would then want to maintain that, how can I provide authority? How can I establish trust? How can I be the warm hug that your knee joint needs on a Wednesday night after soccer, whatever. But with a coaching business, that attractive character is like, people buy into you, and this is something to be, it's a pro and a con. People buy into you because they like you, whether you're a fitness coach, a sales coach, a mindset coach, whatever it is. They look at you, humans immediately judge faces, and there's all these like strategies and tactics and psychological behaviors where we feel safer with different kinds of people. So you're already disadvantaged if somebody doesn't like your face, right? But on the flip side, you're advantaged if somebody does like your face. But then being able to make somebody feel safe, it's like relatability, being heard, being understood. This is how you really sort of can model that attractive character to your audience.
Beautiful. The word that just came to mind, vulnerability. Does that play a part in branding? Is that something that you use, or is that, any thoughts on that?
I was actually writing about this morning as doing a post on it, but it comes down to authenticity. And I went to the Fitness Expo once, many years ago, as a full-blown consumer. I think Sweats, the bikini body guide, had just come off, and I heard them say, Toby Pierce said, be authentic. What does authentic even mean though? And I was kind of like, oh my God, I hear you. I don't know what it means either. Like, what does authentic mean? But then he kind of went on to say what he said, and I still kind of walked away scratching my head with what does, and then everyone's like, be you. No one is you than you. And really, I sort of nailed it down to, what was the last meme you sent your friends? Maybe pull back on that level of humor. What was the last meme you sent?
Yeah.
What t-shirt is your favorite t-shirt? I'm not talking dress up, dress nice. I just mean, what do you like to wear all the time? And what's your go-to playlist? Because this is how we express ourselves, right? And there's nothing right. There's no right or wrong way about this. This is being you. So to me, vulnerability as a brand is allowing that part of you that you're fearful will not be well received, because it's not, insert societal conditioning here, professional. It's not aligned with life coaching. Like if you look at Gary Vee and Alex Hormozy, how are they aligned with shit that's in textbooks? They're coming out with things, they're simplifying the complicated, and they're trending. You look at Mark Carroll, they're not only trending, they're raking it in. If you look at Mark Carroll and James Smith, they did the same thing. They came out to a Gen Pop audience, and they just were themselves. They made it simple and easy to understand. So if it has to be explained, it's not understood. And we all need something we don't know that we need. So there's a lot of money to be made from the universe. We've all got it to spend, and you have to choose what you value. So it's about being able to really, being vulnerable essentially allows you to attract people based on those traits that they may choose you over somebody else.
That's awesome. You just triggered it then. I was going to ask you a different question, but you just triggered this then. You mentioned the word purpose, and you just mentioned something like it's a gift to give. What's your gift that you have to give to the world?
Energy. I honestly don't know how else to say it in one word, but my purpose is freedom. And I know some people pick their brains, they don't know what it is, and it would suck to not know it later in life, but it's okay. You can find it. You just got to do the work. Like anything, if you had to lose weight because you couldn't fit into any of your clothes, you would do the work and find it. If you're feeling lost and demotivated and you don't love your morning, you can do the work to find it. You just got to find your purpose. And I just want to create a world where everyone is free to do what their deepest desires are. So free from societal norms, free from mundane, free from 9 to 5, if that's what they want, and in order to do that, there's got to be a level of energy that people have to attack their goals and learn. You can't just be an energetic business owner and get ahead. I mean, maybe you can for a little bit, but it's doing the hard things that people don't want to do, and so I think the the gift that I have to give people would just be that energy. Like someone asked me on Instagram once if I could have a superpower, what would it be? And it would honestly just be to make people believe in themselves to do the things that they want to do and they sleep on every single day.
We were talking about this before we jumped on the call or click record anyways. Overcoming fear as a founder or just as a entrepreneur, as someone taking action, whether the fear of failure is there, fear of being seen, what if I fuck up, what if people judge me? I'd like to know your thoughts on I guess, thoughts and advice for people to work through that problem.
I think at the end of the day, you are your business. No matter if you run 5 companies, if you run 1 company, or if you have a job. If you took a hit, if you didn't do what you would, trying to do or thinking of doing, then everything else suffers. So you are your first business, right? And overcoming fear, like we feel fear. We're humans. Nothing else feels. I'm not talking about animals, but I'm saying like in life, we feel our fears, right? Overcoming fear is something that is so important. It takes so much work. It's a conscious choice because the higher you get, the higher you grow, the more consciously aware you are, the deeper the fears become in a way, and I feel that really in order to achieve your greatest desires, you have to have a strategy for overcoming fear, because as you start to dream bigger and you don't know how you're going to get there, you start to worry about losing it, right? Or not being worthy or not being able. And we all think that way. We literally all have those thoughts.
Yeah. And do they show up still for you to this day?
Yeah, definitely. All the freaking time. All the time. Like I made guacamole the other day, or however you say it, and I was freaking scared that it wouldn't even turn out good. Like I was scared to make something in my own kitchen with an avocado and whatever the hell I had in my drawer.
Yeah.
Right? So like I am fearful to cook things because I'm scared that they're not going to turn out and I'm going to waste my time and the people who I cook for will leave me. So like that's an example of fear in an everyday form. I like feel fear all the time. I feel fear in business. Sometimes I'm like, what happens if Instagram shuts down again? Like, what happens when XYZ? Like, what happens if I get pregnant and have a family? What happens? Like, it happens. I have these thoughts all the time. I'm human. It's even, somehow I've got a very literal brain. So I'm less fearful of risk than I am of other random shit. Like I'm so like when it comes to like investing or business decisions, I'm like, well, if you do it, you will learn faster if it's the right or wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? I think the biggest thing I'm scared of is like probably wasting time to a degree because you don't get that back, but definitely feel those feelings for sure.
How do you work past yours? Like on a literally day to day, even if you can use the guacamole one if you want to, but like how do you personally work through it? Maybe if you could use a business one, it'd be awesome for the guys listening. Like say you're gonna launch a product, you're about to do a video, you're gonna do something, and that sort of voice in your head just starts to creep in and starts to build itself up and get a bit louder and louder. How do you work past that?
Well, in business, when I feel fearful or when I feel fear towards creating a new campaign, creating an idea, showing up for a content day, I just do it anyway, because realistically, I'm not unsafe. Like I'm not going to die if I launch a bad campaign or if I make a mistake. I literally am not going to die, starve, or hurt anyone, right? Everything else you can work around. And the more data you have to make decisions, the less likely you are to make the wrong one. Now, when you're starting out, you have very few basis points to measure your decisions against. So the more campaigns you launch in a 12-month period or in a 24-month period, if you've got 8 and 4 of them flopped, you know that 4 of them are where you're going to look at for what you can do better and what you can grow upon. So I would rather have 4 failed attempts than none, because those failed attempts will tell me what not to do and I won't do it again, or I'll do it differently. So I don't think of failure anymore. I either win or I learn. I don't fail. I'm learning. Unless I die, I don't fail, right? Like I can always go again. You can go again.
Beautiful.
Really, you can go again. There's so many people who have gone bankrupt and gone again with success. You know, there's a couple of billion-dollar companies that have been founded over and over again, and people, sorry, founders of billion-dollar companies who have found multiple companies. Like you can go again. So, and you're going to go again even smarter than the next person who's not gone before.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the worst case scenario? You're going to win or you're going to learn. Was just some of the things I took out of that. You strike me as a very articulate person. Like the way you're answering your questions, the way you're just seeing the way your mind works or thinks anyways. I don't know if you've got an answer to this question, but do you have like a decision-making model or a way or a frame of how you make decisions? You seem like someone who might have one. Do you have one?
Yeah, I do actually. It depends on the size of the decision. I moved house recently. 4 weeks later, broke my lease and moved again. That was an expensive decision and a huge effort. Kept me up at night as well. So when something's that big, I usually will do a pros and cons list. It's pretty simple. I actually do it on Excel.
Yeah.
Pros, cons, and I think of everything. If it's not as simple, I flip a coin. And I literally always have a coin, like most times. I flip a coin because if it's between two things, when it's in the air, you actually know what you're hoping for.
Oh, that's cool.
Before that coin lands, I know. And I've just been fighting with myself, you know, insecurity versus intuition. Do I do this or am I scared to? I struggle with that all the time. Is this a gut feeling or is this something like, should I do this or am I fearful that I can't? Because you know what I mean? So I flip a coin and if I flip it again, I also know that I'm looking for a different answer. So that's an interesting framework. I haven't actually ever been asked that before, but I'm quite a literal person. And usually I have made very expensive decisions that I've had to learn from, because I kind of do also do the whole, let's just do it and see what happens. I try and mitigate that now with the coin flip or the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely cost me a bit in expensive decision making.
I've got another off question for you. I think a natural, and I relate to that. I'm a very black and white guy. I got diagnosed with Asperger's, so I was a very people would make jokes, and I was like, "Why are you joking about that?" Like, I was like, "Where's the truth in that joke?" That my coaching.
Same. I have the most literal brain. I don't get jokes. I don't get sarcasm, and I mean exactly what I say. So when people say literally all the time, I'm like,
"Isn't that normal?"
Are you only saying literally when you mean the truth? Because now everything you say is flawed.
Yeah. So I relate to that a lot. So I actually connect with you a lot in that sense. Something that I've struggled with because of that is I actually struggled with the opposite. Getting in my body, getting out of my head, overthinking, being intuitive, fucking turning off and switching off out of work mode, which is not a bad thing. I'm always visualizing, thinking of ideas and frameworks and things to work on and things to improve. Have you struggled with that?
You're really preaching to me. I really have. I struggled immensely. This will take a bit of a turn, but it wasn't until my mum passed. My mum passed in 2020.
Yep.
4 weeks after I started my first company in January, essentially, quit my job. And in February, my mum passed, and in March, we went into lockdown. And I did what I do best, which was work and train. I don't I can put emotions in a box. I could schedule time in to think about it later and I wouldn't do it. So I've never been a very intuitive marketer or leader. I don't have gut feelings as such. Well, I'm learning to tap into them now. And I'm super literal and super black and white. So it can also cause friction with people who value more feedback or time or whatever it is. So I definitely have struggled with that. And honestly, the only way through it or out of it is through it, because can't live like that forever. Feeling, energy, sensitivity is a superpower. You can learn a lot when you are receptive or perceptive to a market, a person on the other side of a call with you, and being able to adjust to what that person needs as well. So there's so many reasons why you shouldn't be a cold, hard rock. But also being a cold, hard rock served me so well. Like I was able to work through anything. I got ahead in life when I needed to, and I could support myself when no one else could. So it's quite hard to unlearn that behavior, or learn new behavior when you don't want to let go of the thing that's always been fruitful, right? So yeah, it's definitely something I struggle with. I think it's probably the hardest part about being me. The hardest part about being me would be, like I was for a really long time, and I really feel like I've moved on from this a bit, but very neutral. I felt no feelings. Like I was happy and excited, because I'm just a high energy person. But for a long time, just there was no, or I would get really like, angry at times. And when I was growing up, and obviously losing my mom, that's sort of that was the spectrum of grief. And it was only in that event, or through that event, her passing, that I had to go to therapy. I knew that that would really send me to a new level of wherever I was. So working through that with mindset coaches, NLP therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, like you have to, because there's a whole world out there, like another level, another devil, if you want to go one way. But just as you come up, as well as you like ascend into the light, whatever that is, whatever you receive that to be, but like there is so much more to this life. And I think when you have hope and love, and you lead with the positivity, you come from a place of inspiration and creation. And in the past, in business, I was always coming from a place of scarcity and fear. Like I would create my freedom so no one could take it away from me. And now I create my freedom so I can share it with everyone else, whoever that is. So it's a very like powerful shift. But again, it's like it's a lot of work to get there.
What's your relationship like with surrendering and letting go?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if I could probably do that on purpose. Like I try. I have to try. It comes down to feeling safe. Again, I don't really have this issue in business, because I believe I really value my self-worth. Like I really know that I'm an asset to any team, and I don't doubt my ability to start again. I've had multiple companies, and I've never had an issue with attracting opportunity or getting a job. But personally, I feel like, letting go, I can see on the flip side, like I thrive in structure. Like bodybuilding saved me when my mom passed, because it gave me structure. And I didn't like the feeling of being out of control. So definitely something I'm aware of. I love to do things now, like go on big nature hikes. I love to go do guided events, like go scuba diving. I love I want to go to like a cooking class. That's something that I'm looking at the moment. Like I just want to go do things. I love group exercise. I love yoga, and I just want to go do things where I don't know what's coming and somebody else is planning. I love reading, because to me that's a period of time where I can't even watch Netflix, because I always watch the same thing, because I know for sure that I'm Harry Potter.
Hey, Harry Potter girl, epic.
Yeah, for sure. But I love documentaries because I love learning, but that's not really letting go. So I'm learning.
Beautiful.
Either way, try and learn.
We won't turn this into a full psychology session, but I was just curious on that. I think back to the structure side, I'm a huge Jocko Willink fan. Discipline and structure equals freedom. I'd like to know, what are some of the structures that you have from a day-to-day personal and professional level that's really added to your success?
I've been questioning this a lot lately, because I get mad at myself if I don't nail my daily routine.
Did you see Hormozy's post on ice baths and morning routines? He did that today.
Yeah, I've seen something else that he spoke about recently. And like he said, if your morning routine takes an hour and a half and then like you're tired by the end of it, it's not worth it. So we've actually come up with the Founders Focus Challenge for our clients essentially. And this is what I've been living my life by for the last few weeks. And I absolutely love it. And it's not necessarily a routine, but it's daily non-negotiables.
Beautiful.
So if I wake up in the morning, I do genuinely like to go move my body.
Beautiful.
Training, yoga, go for a walk. I like to read a book in the morning. It gets my brain firing. I feel inspired. I love to journal. But if I don't do it in an order, I don't want to have any hard thoughts about it. So I just have daily non-negotiables. I need to make time to move my body. I like to know that I'm hitting steps, although that rarely happens, to be honest. I like to read a book, journal, talk to a friend, because I live alone and work from home. So having a bit of outreach is nice. And I also like to make sure I'm learning. So twice a day, I try and elevate my brain. Reading to me doesn't count as learning. Reading is reading, learning is learning. You make your own rules, guys. Don't get mad. So it's kind of like for me, I like to listen to a podcast, watch YouTube, read something online about something, study something, do a short course. I think learning is really powerful. So you can live 1,000 lives if you're a fast reader or learner.
Yeah. Beautiful answer. I've got a topic that I've been making my way back to. You mentioned it a couple times through this call, is leadership. Now I want to combine two questions in this one question. You also mentioned the word masculine coming from the pest control. Well, a lot of guys, a lot of masculine energy. How have you found in your business career balancing masculine and feminine from the sort of, I actually spoke to this with another person not too long ago, and it was the balance between like being strong and powerful as a woman in business out of inspiration versus you doing it out of protection because you've got things you haven't worked on, and then being in your feminine and allowing, like for you, for painting, creating, watching a movie and letting go, surrendering. How have you found that within your business career? Actually, I'll make them two separate questions. Start with that and then we'll go into leadership. So masculine, feminine energy, how do you balance that with your business?
So yeah, great question. So like I was saying, I was very in my masculine for a long time. Did really well in business and was working around men, even in corporate, always worked around men, even in the fitness industry, lots of strong male clients. So it's a difficult one to balance because I believe that that's why a lot of people enjoyed working with me. That's why I got to where I got to, because I feel parts or masculine traits are being quite structured or rigid or assertive, which is great. And to being a bit direct, like obviously you can save a lot of time. But then obviously with being in your feminine as well, that brings with it the creation side and understanding, empathy, maybe a little bit more client research focus. So I essentially try and make time for myself every day, as I said previously, that allows me to be a little bit more conscious, because when I'm more consciously aware and more present, I'm able to sort of tap into my feminine energy more, like when I made guacamole, even though I was freaked out about it. So I feel that in business, it is important to be able to first and foremost read a room and know your audience, whether you're talking to a client, a coworker, or a prospect. That energy that you give and the way that you relate is super important, because I will not sit on a meeting with one of my clients the same way that I would sit with another, right? So you've got to be able to know your audience and sort of adjust yourself accordingly to fill the gaps in that space, whether it's you need more masculine energy or you need more feminine energy. But I feel that as a person, as a solopreneur, as a founder, you've got to be able to tap into both of those sides and make sure that if one is harder for you, like it is for me, it's really challenging to tap into my feminine. But when I'm in my feminine, I'm so creative and have a lot more ideas. And then when I'm in my masculine, I'm able to get them done. So it's just about making sure that I give myself the space to do so, and then give myself the space to process those thoughts, because when you're so busy, you don't hear your thoughts.
Mm. So just to sort of get a bit granular with that, so you structure in time for you to be more creative, more flowy, more feminine?
Yeah, essentially, like I said, I don't try and structure it because I feel like that's counterintuitive, but it's a daily non-negotiable for me to practice tasks that make me more mindful, and movement, yoga, journaling, meditating, cooking, spending some time on my own. If I'm making sure that I'm doing this, because it's easy to work 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day. It's easy to do that when the work is there to be done and you're comfortable on your computer chair.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing else to do, right? It's harder for me to stop and to put time into myself because I feel guilty about it, and that's wrong essentially. But like that time that I'm investing in myself, which doesn't feel related to the business, is actually me filling up my cup, which I need to pour back into my business.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful awareness. We're going into leadership, so I made it a separate question. What's been your experience like with leadership coming from, I guess, your background in the corporate world, the pharmaceutical world, the fitness world? Do you have a team right now? Are you working with a team? Like, are you leading
Yeah, we
people?
do have a team. We've got a pretty big team, a big appetite.
Yeah.
We've got 4 full-timers in Sydney, essentially.
Cool.
No, actually, that's right. We have 5 as well. We have a team within the business. One of our designers is in the States, which is amazing. And then we work with other teams as well in terms of when we need like development partners and things like that too. So there's a lot of people to manage there. Plus, obviously, working with our clients. So at any point in time, we often have 15 to 20 clients each, Jade and I, and then they have teams and contractors, and then any other ventures that we're working on as well. So leadership, I feel, is something that you can always be getting better at. The greatest leaders, we all have a lot to learn. It comes down to human interaction, managing people. I think we're all learning to be better communicators. And the more kinds of people you meet, the more you have to learn about different communication styles. And the one thing that I have learned about leadership would just be to assume radical responsibility. Like, it would be nice to trust that somebody can deliver a result the first time that you've asked them to do it, or the second time, whatever. But really, if they're not performing or delivering or growing, whatever it is, at the rate that you want to, and I hear this all the time, all of our clients are entrepreneurs and startups as well. So they usually say things like, it's faster if I do it myself. Nobody can do it like I can do it. And I'll just do it because and it's like that way of thinking is going to hurt your growth. You're still going to have the same problem that you have now in 6 months' time because you're still doing what got you here. Okay. So I think with leadership, if you can just assume radical responsibility and assume fault, don't blame. There's no point in blaming. This is your business. If that person that you hired didn't do the job that you appointed them to do, it's your fault. It's not their fault, right? And let's say it is their fault. Let's say they just turned off their phone and didn't contact anyone. Well, it's your fault for hiring that person. Like, essentially, maybe you should have asked them a few days earlier if everything's okay. Do they need help? Are they struggling? So I always look at an issue or an instance and think, what could we have done better? What could go wrong? What did go wrong? And how could we mitigate that from happening again?
Great answer. What are you working on with your own leadership?
That I feel it's that. I think it's communicating, working remotely, and having a team that is also in that environment. I feel like never assuming. I'm really trying to work on that. Never assume that a job is done, that a job is done properly or to your standard. Never assume that people understand. Like, ask, do you understand this? Is this clear to you? Do you need anything else from me to help you do this? How can I support you? I feel like leadership is really about asking questions and establishing clarity. So it's very easy to flick things off when you put it together in the way that your brain understands. And then, of course, you're going to expect it to be clear. Otherwise, you wouldn't have sent it. So just asking, just literally, and it goes both ways. Like, if you don't understand something, ask, because it's just wasting time, really.
Absolutely. Look, this has been a really, really, really Powerful conversation. Heaps of practical things, heaps of value, a lot of mindset stuff included as well. Is there anything else that's on your mind right now? Anything that you're pulled to share, or anything you want to, I guess, end this conversation on?
I would love to let people know that I'm starting my own podcast.
Hey, that's
Yeah,
exciting.
so I recorded my first episode this week, and it will be coming out in the next few days now that I've said this.
Sure.
In the next week or so. So please do keep an eye out for that. And you can find me at bigappetite.com.
Yep.
And Davies on Instagram. We are working hard to change the world. So we love to associate with people who want to do the same.
Beautiful. What's the name of the podcast as well?
It's called She's Taking Over.
Beautiful. Go check it out, guys. Last question. I do say this one to last. You actually gave some awesome answers. So maybe something you haven't said today. What is something that you're working through behind the scenes on a personal level that no one else gets to see?
Being more feminine. I feel like as a woman working, running a business, being in a relationship was a really great way for me to see where I could work on that part of myself that probably needed more work before I got into that relationship. So being single and thriving in my own space, essentially, of course you have no one to fight with and you can do whatever you want. Just tapping into that feminine energy. So showing my cat Harry lots of love.
We love Harry.
Yeah, we do love Harry. And just trying to just tap into my feminine energy, being a little bit more of a feeler. Because I feel like I said before, you can miss out on the highs and lows when you're running at neutral.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably that.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Jenna. This has been a beautiful conversation, and I appreciate your time. For the listeners that have gotten all the way to the end, hit Jenna up, find her Instagram, message her, connect with her. If you're interested in her services, please dive down that rabbit hole. Go check out her podcast. And Jenna, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.